Hello, everyone. Welcome back. Long time no see. I would like to assure everyone that I have not been slacking off. I have just been living the hermit lifestyle for a while, and I've been very, very busy. And one of the things that I've been busy with is my newest tabletop RPG called Senshi. Now, this is this was a pretty big project. I started this 2 years ago, or at least I started conceptualizing it 2 years ago. I started with a simple one shot and a simple system, and then I just made it into something bigger, even though, well, bigger in terms of options and character creation rules and all that stuff. But um, this is still a new system, in a new game in its entirety, based on a very simple system that I made. I actually used the World of Darkness sort of D10 success system, and I basically made those into D12s instead, and made a lot of my own little tweaks to that, and so it's a very simple system to get into. Now, when I say success based, don't think Shadowrun. You're not rolling 15 dice with each with each skill check. Here, you're rolling like 1 to like max 5 or 6 dice, but that's like if you're really, really good at something. There's other game mechanics that sort of make it so that your successes count. Basically, you get more successes from, but you do it through other ways, not by rolling more dice. So it's a very fluid system. You can play it on tabletop, like actual tabletop, like a physical table, with no issues. I've done it. It's not a big deal. All you're using basically is d12s. You're not rolling anything else for the most part. Sometimes you roll something else, but it's very rare. So you just need a shit ton of d12s, and that's it. Or I guess you would need like 3 or 5 d12s. Now, what's this game actually even about? Well, it's like it says here, an authentic role-playing game set in feudal Japan. Specifically, this game is set in 1575 feudal Japan, which is during the end of Sengoku Jidai, which is the Warring States period. So this is right after Oda Nobunaga took over Kyoto and basically, made himself de facto shogun. And this is like the era where a lot of territory is conquered by fewer clans compared to compared to a few decades earlier. But so it's kind of like this very short amount of peace. Well, not peace; it's still war, but sort of there's like a year or two where there was very little conflict, but then there's like a bunch of big conflicts. So it's kind of like the calm before the storm, which I thought was a perfect sort of time period to use as a setting, because you're not constantly in like this war sort of area where you're trying to adventure around, or you could be if you go to like certain areas and if you want to engage in that. So this game allows you to just be like make like a free-form adventure where you're playing your characters, you're roaming around feudal Japan, getting into all kinds of shenanigans, or you could do it as even like a war game, or especially if you're playing a samurai, you could do like a whole clan warfare, sort of, almost like a strategy game type thing, with a combination of an RPG. So there's rules for all of that, or like everything of that is described, how to do it, how to play it. So this is the real deal. I did quite a lot of research for this book. I am no historian, don't get me wrong. I probably got certain things wrong, I'm sure of it, but I did try to stay as authentic as possible, especially to this time period. Everything in this book is 100% authentic, even the artwork, because the artwork is actually, except for the cover file, which I made from some royalty-free stuff and a little bit of Photoshop magic, except for the cover, all the artwork in the game is traditional ukiyo-e art, which is basically Japanese woodblock art. So they painted a lot of paintings on wood blocks. And these are all from like the 18th and 19th century. So from the 1700s all the way to the 1900s, basically all the artwork, all the authentic Japanese artwork that's more than 100 years old, because that's how long it takes for the copyright to expire, is something that I used in this. And there's probably like 200, 300 pictures in this. I'm not sure how many. It's a lot. And I can actually show you a bit of the pictures. I'm going to scroll through this a bit anyway, but like here's a typical example. This is a large battle between Takeda, which was a clan, and I'm not sure actually who's fighting. I think Mori is here. There's a bunch of clans. I think this is like a clan picture of like all the different clans warring with each other. So this is the kind of artwork you can expect in the game. It's really cool. I handpicked it all. Basically, there's like this website where there's tons of this artwork available for free, and you can just type in what you're looking for. And I handpicked every one to sort of make sense based on the page it's on and sort of the topic that it's the topic of the page that it's drawn on, and it looks pretty damn cool. And you don't get more authentic than this. This is actual, like, if you want to get technical, this is samurai art. This is art from Japanese artists from like 1750. That was the Edo period, which was after the period in this book, but which is like a huge it was like a 200-year era of peace, but or I guess I should say 300-year-old era of peace, but there were still samurai during that time, and some of them were artists. There were some monk artists, some priest artists, and they all drew this stuff. So this is authentic stuff. This is samurai art, essentially. This is feudal Japan art. So I thought, once I realized I could use this stuff, I was like, well, that takes care of that. So, and it's, I mean, you wouldn't want anything else in a book like this, really. You wouldn't want someone drawing stuff that's like that period when you can get the actual stuff from that period. So, anyway, I don't want to make this video too long, even though I know it will be, because I know I can ramble on. But anyway, here's a cute, quick little index. There's also, of course, bookmarks. The bookmarks are a bit more expansive. Like they go into, because the index, you can see there's 2 levels of it. The bookmarks actually go into 3 levels, so everything's very easily accessible. The book is actually written in a way that's very nicely segmented. I really hate TTRPG books where you scroll through and you're like, you come into a situation with your group and there's like, oh, what do we do now? And he's like, oh, wait, there's a rule for this. Oh, where the hell is it? And then you're scrolling through the whole book, like trying to find this thing, whereas it should be like, if it's a combat rule, it should be under combat. If it's a gameplay rule, it should be under gameplay. If it's a RP rule, it should be under exploration. If it's something related to your profession, it's under that profession. I try really hard to make this as easily accessible as possible so that you're not scrolling around like an idiot. So, everything's nicely segmented. It even has the 8th chapter is called Adjudication, which is basically a GM guide. So it's all included. This is an all-in-one book. Everything you need for a campaign, run a campaign, or even a one-shot, it's in this book. This is it. You don't need anything else. Even though I do plan on making, obviously, supplements and adventures, all that stuff in the future, the next project is actually going to be a low magic system that you can tackle onto this, because there's no magic in this system. It's a hard setting. It'll be like a low magic system you can put in this, and it's going to be inspired by old Japanese mythology, based on the Shinto gods, or kami as they call them. I got some ideas for that. I haven't actually started writing it yet. I got some notes on that, but that's what I'm going to be developing next. Anyway, let me show you how this book is made. I'm not going to scroll through the whole thing because obviously, I'm going to give you a little bit of sneak preview, but I'm not going to show you everything. But you can get an idea what the book looks like. So this first chapter is basically just a quick overview of the time period and what the game's about. It's an introductional chapter, basically. And so on the left, you'll see basically like a nice little authentic painting and the chapter. And then on the right side, there's the Japanese, basically the kanji way of writing the chapter name. So this basically just means land of the rising sun. Sorry, on the right. And then this part here is basically this little bit of poetry from actual Japanese monks and or poets. You know, this one's from Date Masamune. He was, you know, a daimyo, a warlord, clan warlord from the 16th century up until the 17th century. And this is one of his quotes, basically. And I did this with every chapter. So a nice little picture and a nice little quote and something that kind of relates to that chapter, you know? And so this is like an overview of the world, what Senshi is, how it's played, what do you need. So just a simple 6-page sort of introduction. And then we go straight into character creation, you know? Here I basically explain everything. This is all made in a way that it's easily understandable. I made sure of it. I made sure that this thing isn't bloated in any way. So, I mean, okay, so you might be thinking, well, the thing's got 556 pages. How is it not bloated? Well, in terms of rules, and it's very light. You can print the rules out in 3 or 4 pages, max. But it's got a lot of other stuff, like it's got a lot of different abilities, a lot of different martial schools, NPC lists, animals, like the type animal stat blocks, just setting information, just the professions alone. If we look up here on the index, just the professions alone, like samurai is definitely the longest one. That's 30 pages because, and again, it's just like 3 pages to understand what they get, but then you also pick a clan. And so the rest of the pages are just different clans explained and what you get with those clans. So it's just expansive in that sense because you have a lot of options. That's why this book is so big. Not because it's, you know, bloated in sense of game mechanics. So I want to nip that in the bud right now because as soon as people see how big it is, like, oh my god, this is going to be one of those, you know, like Shadowrun is like that, you know? You read it and it's like, oh my god, the mechanics are just too much. At least newer editions, the older ones are a little simpler. But anyway, I digress. Point is, you have a nice little character creation step-by-step guide here, how to do it. Basically, you only need the 3 or 4 steps. The rest of the steps are kind of not necessary, but it's, you know, nice to do them. Traits and reputation, stuff like honor, age and lineage. Character creation in this game, if you don't know what you're doing, if you're doing it for the first time, might take you about 30 minutes or so to make a character. If you know what you're doing, you can do it as fast as 15 minutes. I made sure that character creation is fast because, and by the way, NPCs and PCs all use the same character creation method. There's no disconnect between character classes and NPC classes. There's no such thing as an NPC class. The only thing that an NPC might have that's different from a PC class is like a unique passive ability they might have because of, you know, which faction they belong to or something like that. But other than that, there's no disconnect. They use the same abilities, same items, same rules. This is not D&D, like in D&D 5e, if you were to look at the what kind of disconnect there is between the PCs and the NPCs got crazy amounts of abilities that players can never have. Not here. What the NPCs can use, you can use. And also, okay, the only exception to the rule maybe a little bit is the animals, because animals obviously had some natural traits that humans don't have, so it makes sense to me that they have certain things that humans can't have, like, you know, like a really good sense of smell or sight, so stuff like that. But other than that, everyone has to conform to the same rules in terms of characters. Now, this is also a name generator. I added 99 male first names, 99 female first names, and 99 family names. So you can literally roll for your character's name. Because I know, people often have trouble finding names. You can obviously come up with your own, but if you don't have any idea, you just roll it. And these are kind of the names that kind of sounded cool to me. I handpicked them all. They're all authentic Japanese names. And the family names, I threw out all the clan names because if you're a samurai and you belong to a certain clan, you assume that clan's last name. So, I threw those out so that make sure that these aren't actually in there. So I might have missed one or two, but hopefully I didn't. I think I got them all. So, character advancement rules, like you see, it's 1, 2, 3 pages, or like even 2.5 pages for character advancement. How you? It's super easy system, very easy to get into, easy to understand, but it has a lot of depth in combat, especially when you add stuff like conditions and stuff. And I tried to make the combat make sense in a lot of ways. In a lot of ways, it's very fluid in terms of how you can build your character. You can build your character in any way you want. Professions, now we're in the profession section, they're not like classes. They don't limit you down a specific path. What they do is they give you a sort of unique ability, unique passive ability. That's the only thing that they really do compared to other things, mechanic wise. And they're kind of like backgrounds if you're a 5e player. Also rolled into one basically. So backgrounds are, or professions are basically like, they also determine how what your character's social status is in Japanese society, because Japanese feudal society had a caste system basically. The samurai were noblemen, so they were in the upper ranks, and stuff like merchants and peasants and all that stuff was lower. So your profession will actually dictate that, because that was a big thing back then. So that's kind of what professions do. Obviously, you get stuff like starting bonuses, some bonuses to your stats, your skills, maybe an inherent trait. Some of them do, some of them don't, depends. And some starting equipment you get, and some starting wealth. And of course, a unique ability, like for instance, if you're a samurai of the Chisokabe clan, you get Combat Archer, which is a unique passive. And samurai clans, I only noted the major clans on this map. I didn't go, because there's all the sort of beige, or I guess white, I don't know, call this color. All the beige spots were also ruled either they weren't ruled by samurai, or by rebels, or some sort of independent faction. But usually they were ruled by some other clan, like a small clan. Now, I didn't give that option to players to play the samurai of any clan, because then this book would be 100 pages longer. And I already thought that the samurai section was already too long. So you have about, I think, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 different clans to choose from. I think that's a good variety. And it also kind of determines your starting location. And then I also put this in the book. This appears throughout the book. If I ever had a section where I was like, okay, well, I'm not gonna put a picture here. I already put a picture recently, but I had a lot of space to fill. I went, I'm just gonna put a did you know sort of trivia section. So there's a little bit of Japanese trivia of that time. Different subjects. Now, here's something I want to point out. So, because Japan was big on like the sort of societal roles, they were also big on gender roles. So, this is not a political statement in any way. I'm just pointing out facts. And here, what I do is, whenever this comes up in terms of, I want to play if someone's like, I want to play a female samurai. Well, I put this little segment in to basically explain how that either was a possibility or wasn't a possibility at all. So I give you the historical context, of that of like females or males in certain roles, professions, and then um, I leave it up to you and your adjudicator, which is the name of game master in this game, to figure out whether they will allow or disallow that in their game. So I'm not gonna police your table. Um, I hate policing people's tables. I'm not a policeman. I am a developer. What you do in your sessions is up to you. You bought the thing. You can do whatever you want with it. Um, I just give you the historical context to show you this is how it was, and then you can choose to either ignore or abide by that. All right, so these are all the clans. I'm going to shift through all these professions, but you have stuff like Ronin, Shinobi are ninjas basically. You have priests, craftsmen, doctors, merchants, even investigators, which are like policemen. You also have criminals. You can be a criminal if you want. You have different subtypes of criminals. You have gang members, mercenaries, outlaws, smugglers, thieves, or even pirates. And each of these things give you a different bonus. If you're a gang member, you got a gang. Depending on your starting tier of your character, depends on how big your gang is. And for instance, if you're a pirate, you start with a pirate crew. You're part of a pirate crew, and this is kind of your position. You're either a deckhand or a fighter or a gunner. So. And one more thing for professions, I'm going to mention this. Each profession has a destiny. Now, I added a lineage system to this game, and the lineage system basically is like your character's family tree. So, when you make your character, again, this isn't mandatory. You don't have to do this when you make a character, but it's a nice little system because you roll for your parents to see if they're dead or alive. You roll for your if you have any aunts and uncles. You roll to see if you have any siblings, like sisters, brothers, cousins, and then you roll if you have any offspring, and then you also roll descendants, and then you roll what kind of descendants you have. So that creates like a whole family tree for your character. It takes a little time. It takes about 10 minutes to do, but I think it's a cool thing because if your character dies, one of your descendants, if you have any, is gonna be your new character. If they're old enough, obviously, if they're 5 years old, it's kind of weird. So, but then if that's the case, then one of your siblings is gonna take over. Unless you have none, then it's gonna be one of your parents if they're still alive. Unless all of them are dead and you're completely alone, then just make a new character. But that's very unlikely that happens. Point is that your lineage or your descendants or whatever, basically they inherit your previous items if your character was not dishonorable, and they inherit their honor if the honor is positive. If the honor is negative, the new character might actually get prosecuted by some of your previous character's enemies. If your character was honorable but they were killed in a dishonorable way, let's say, then your new character, your previous character's descendant, is gonna get the vengeful trait and try to avenge your previous character. So it creates this nice little family tree thing, because Japanese during that time were very big on that stuff. So I think it's a fun little system. And here's the thing: your destiny is also something you roll for. Each profession has 4 different visions and 4 different obstructions. So you roll for these. Which one your vision is kind of like your vision of your destiny. So it's kind of like your goal, what you got to achieve. And if you achieve that, but you have an obstruction to that goal, so that's something that's going to actively try to hinder you from completing that goal. Now, if you achieve your vision, your destiny, some of them can be easier, some of them can be harder. Depends. But if you achieve it, and obviously you can come up with your own. You don't need to use these. You can come up with your own. But if you achieve it, your character will, your next character, your lineage character, if your previous character dies, is gonna get a bonus. So basically, they're gonna start with a higher tier and get some bonuses to their skills, or to their XP that they earn. Actually, so the next character is actually going to be better in terms of starting position. And so the idea is your character, if you constantly complete your main, quote unquote, main objective or your story, whatever you want to call it, your next character gets a bonus because characters are probably gonna die in this game. I'm gonna be real with you. This is a pretty realistic system in terms of combat. It's not hyper realistic. I don't like hyper realistic systems because they're so realistic they're not fun. But it is pretty realistic. If you screw around and you make an enemy of some high-ranking samurai, he can chop your head off with one hit. It's happened. Again, it's not guaranteed that it'll happen, but it can likely happen. So you're mortal, so you can die pretty easily in this game. It's kind of the lineage system kind of actually expects that your characters are gonna die. And that's why I made the lineage system, so that every time you make a new one, if you're striving to, sort of reach your goal, you're always gonna get a little bonus for your next character, and then that character's gonna basically have a better shot at surviving. So, but you have to pursue your goal, and you have to, try to reach it before you die. So that's kind of the destiny and the lineage system. I want to point that out because I worked on it quite a while, and I think it works very well. And then there's gameplay rules, mechanics. See, this is all the rules you need for mechanics. 1, 2, 3, less than 3 pages, right? Very short. This is all you need to know. Now, obviously, here you have explanations on each attribute, what it does, skills, blah, 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 all that stuff. But in terms of game mechanics, in terms of roles and stuff, this is it. That's all you need, these 3 pages. And I even put 2 examples down here, so nothing's confusing. So it's super simple. It works pretty well. If you have a lot of points in a certain skill, you're gonna roll more dice, but the more important stuff is you're gonna unlock abilities. The idea with this game is that you are actually unlocking abilities and through when you improve your skills. So your skills not only improve your dice pools or your they either improve your dice pools or they give you a specialty, which is like a subset of a skill that gives you bonus dice, or they unlock a skill or upgrade a skill. So each skill, like aggression, survival, persuasion, blah blah blah, all of these have their own skill attached to them. So aggression has one skill, and then when you get to higher ranks, that skill upgrades, and then you also get an ultimate skill, ultimate ability in that skill when you reach max rank. For combat skills, it's similar, but instead of upgrading the same skill, it gives you a new one. And all the abilities are kind of written in a way that they're sort of progressive in terms of when you put more ranks and when you get more experienced, they also get better. So I really didn't want to have throwaway abilities, like something you unlock and then you reach a higher level and then, well, that ability is useless now. I really tried to avoid that. Here you have all the conditions. I'm just scrolling through this again. I'm not gonna show you every little bit, but I'm just gonna show you a little bit of everything. Exploration here. These are basically RP rules and how to explore the environment. A lot of setting related stuff is in this. So you have a nice little map of Japan in its entirety. You have I put a little arrow down here and a little for the islands and an arrow up here for Hokkaido Island. So because I couldn't squeeze the whole thing otherwise on the page. So, but each area is marked with a number. So now I don't. I know what you're thinking, but I don't actually describe every single province. If I did, this book would be 1,000 pages. But what I did is I separated it into regions. So you have Hokkaido Island, Northern Honshu, Central Honshu, Southern Honshu, Tosa Island, Kyushu Island, Ryukyu Islands. See? Hokkaido Island, Northern Honshu. That's how I separated them. So you go from north to south, and then they describe each region, and it also shows you which areas fall into each region. The ones with asterisks next to them means they're occupied by a clan, a major clan. So there's a nice little explanation for this. You have landmarks, famous landmarks, entertainment, games of skill and chance, all kinds of stuff, even children's games. Law and order, rules, transportation, how to get around, religion, property. You can actually get property in this. You can buy houses. See shack, farmhouse, small house, large house, small manor, large manor. Obviously, it costs a lot of money, but you can rent property, you can buy property, you can buy servants. Each of them gives you certain bonuses. If you're a samurai, you usually get servants for free as a part of your promotion. If you're an important enough person, you can even be granted a fief. So you can actually run like villages, small village, large village, all this stuff, or even a whole province, or even several provinces. You can even determine what kind of goods your fiefs produce. You also get a set income from that fief. It makes you money, and then you can use that money to improve that fief by making new features. You see here all kinds of different improvements, and there's also then you have events that happen in these fiefs. Like, for instance, a food event. Like, I don't know, something happens to the food supply. Like maybe a bunch of rats get into the granary and eat a lot of food, and then everyone's starving, and then you gotta maintain order or stuff like that. So it's you also have a little bit of a strategy sort of, or like I guess, yeah, like a grand strategy sort of aspect to this. Rules for materials, surrounding hazards, all kinds of stuff, illumination. Suffocation rules. But everything's in here. Rest and recovery, food, lodgings. You can hire prostitutes in this, and the prostitutes have a chance of giving you chlamydia or syphilis if they are not if they're from a questionable establishment. So yes, and I have rules for chlamydia and syphilis. They are in the book, and yeah, I just thought it was a funny thing to add because it was a pretty common thing during that time. So, with, like dirty establishment. And then there's an item and vehicle section. Now, I went pretty crazy with this, but I did hold myself back. Still, even though I went pretty crazy. So, let me just give you an example for swords, okay? You have long swords, which is the katana, odachi, and the shikomizue, for instance. And the way it works is basically all swords have the same damage table, because my logic was you can just as easily cut someone's throat with a sword as you can with a dagger. It's a question of skill, right? But that's why each weapon, instead of having its own sort of like damage and stuff, it gets a special sort of passive thing, a special trait or whatever you want to call it, characteristic. So, for instance, a katana gives you +1 success versus unarmored, clothed, or lightly armored targets, whereas an odachi, which is like a huge great sword, gives you +2 dice on charge attack, but -2 dice when not charged. So it's like, or a shikomizue, which is it's a katana hidden inside a wooden walking stick, so your first attack is a surprise attack, stuff like that. So each weapon has its own little thing, right? And there's a lot of these. There's swords, there's staff weapons, there's throwing weapons, there's bows, there's firearms, there's ninja weapons, there's kabuto weapons, there's even the war fan, if you want to use it, if you're gonna go really exotic. You have armor and clothing, different armors, blah blah blah. And then you have accessories. These are extra stuff you can add to your characters, like, hats, headwear. A lot of these are just they don't have like certain usually they have some sort of thing that they do, some sort of benefit, but usually a lot of times it's just a status symbol. So for instance, if you're wearing a Buddhist hat, that kind of makes people know, oh, he's a Buddhist, he's a monk, that has a certain status. Or if you're wearing a samurai helmet, it's like, or if you're a samurai and you're not wearing a samurai helmet, that might be weird. It depends on the situation. But the point is, you have a bunch of equipment, so you have a table for equipment, and you have a bunch of consumables. So you have a bunch of consumables, and all these with asterisks, they're ninja exclusive items. So ninjas get a ton of little gadgets to play with, like special stuff. Because ninjas are all about gadgets, and they had so many of them. And then it's something that I added, which is pretty fun. Literature, which is basically. So here's the thing: when I was always playing, when I was playing in like different groups and different systems and all that stuff, um, you could go to like a library and they were like, well, what kind of books do they have? And you can go, yeah, I'll have books about this and this. But what does that really do? You can open a book and be like, okay, well, this contains some information about that and that. And you can always do that, obviously. But there was no real mechanical benefit to it. Which is why I added literature because so basically what I did is I found 12 historically inspired books that okay, there might be some historical accuracies here, and I am perfectly aware of that. One of these books maybe, was a little too late, came a little later in the time period, maybe, so I apologize for that. But I basically took each skill, so you can see here, finesse, presence, athletics, artistry, blah, 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 blah. And then I found a book that would kind of, a real book, that would kind of, from that time period, will kind of have information about that sort of thing, right? So finesse, you have 8 Principles of Young, which is the Chinese multi-volume series on calligraphy, right? So that will help you with your finesse. And the idea is you can read these books and you get some XP in that attribute, right? And each of these books comes in 8 volumes. So you can see here, volume 1 gives you +2 XP, but if you can only get the benefit if you're rank 1 to 4 in that skill. And obviously the cost goes up. So this is like a nice little collectible you can put in your games. They can find, and it's very beneficial because it gives you XP and then they can improve their skills faster. Instruments, trade goods, all kinds of trade goods, from animal parts to metals to cloth to vegetables to wood. So I added this because you can either indulge in a lot of trade to get more money, or you can actually just use these to craft things. You can use wood, you can use metal. You have strong metal and soft metal. Kawagane and shigane. You can use these to craft swords and stuff. I have a pretty extensive crafting system. I'll show you that in a bit. Stuff like poisons. This is something that usually shinobi get access to. They get access to certain poisons they can use. They can put this on their weapons. They can put it in their enemies' drinks. They can throw it on the ground. It depends on what kind of poison it is. And you have like really weak poisons that just gives them like a little bit of fatigue, or you have strong poisons which can kill them within 60 days if they fail a bunch of rolls, or something that can kill them even in like 2 hours. So different types of vehicles, siege weapons, and here, look at the crafting rules. So this is something I try to do well. Is I try to expand on this because I always see crafting rules in these games and they're so lackluster or they're so vague that it just it's like well, do whatever you want. Let's look, if you're going to craft things. I went down to the nitty gritty for this, and I was like, okay, this is the craft. What do you want to craft? I want to craft a quality 3 armor. Okay, well, you need specialization 2 in that skill if you want to do that, and it's going to take you 12 hours per quality level. So it's 3 times 12, that's 36 hours. So you know the crafting time, right? And then you go, well, what do I need for the crafting? Well, check the table, right? Okay, it's light armor, rank 3. 3/10 of cost in high grade leather, 2/10 of cost in loomed cloth. Right. So you just compute the cost. You check the actual cost of the item you want to craft. You divide it by you get 30% of that cost in high grade leather and 20% of that cost in loomed cloth. You get those items and then you start crafting. You can craft food. This is something I also wanted to do. Because food is just something that usually characters need to eat in terms of survival, but I actually get it benefits. So it's like, okay, well, each type of food has a certain nutritional value. So you can mix and match nutritional values, and then you can make a roll. And if your if you reach a minimum amount of nutrition, you satisfy your daily need for food, and if you make a meal with a lot of nutrition, you can actually get a bonus. You can actually you can also craft your own poisons, um, and this is how to make them. And all of these you can just take these ideas and just expand them. And then the last chapter is adjudication. This is basically GM guide. It gives you some new tips for new GMs. This is all the tips I sort of went back in my head in terms of all the GMing that I've been doing for the past 10 years, 10 plus years, and what I sort of learned during that time. And I gave you like a bunch of sort of pro tips here on how to run a good game. Right, so this is just some tips for new GMs, basically. When to ask for roles, how to create an adventure, what kind of adventure you want to make. You have a little quest creator here to get ideas for quests. Here you have a randomized table for quest rewards. So like if you say, okay, well, the risk of that quest was high, so they're gonna get 1d6 plus 3 XP for it, and 2d20 plus 40 mon, which is money. You're gonna either get or lose 1 honor depending on the nature of the quest, and you're gonna get 2 reputation, right? So you can use this to randomize the rewards a bit, so it's not always the same. Same thing for shinobi contracts. Is a table for making shinobi contracts for ninjas. For like assassination, sabotage, and all that stuff. You can hire retainers, and then there's a pretty decent list of NPCs here. So I made all the most sort of common NPCs that you would find in feudal Japan during the time. So obviously the daimyo, which is the lord of a clan. A Hatamoto samurai, which is higher ranking samurai. And all of these have their stat blocks here. So there's a little description, and on the next page there's a little stat block and their items, all that stuff. So you have all kinds of NPCs: samurai, Ashigaru, mercenary, ronin, shinobi, warrior, monk, and then you have townfolk such as artisans, courtesan, merchant, peasant, performer, priest, official, and then you have criminals, goon, gang leader, outlaw, pirate. Just enough stuff to get you started, right? Something that you can always grab and be like, oh well, they got into trouble with a local gang. Just go up. Okay, goon. Yeah. Okay, these are his stats. This is how many dice I roll on this. This is how many dice I roll on that. You can just read this from the book. You don't even need a character sheet. Animals. A bit of rule explanation for animals because they do have simplified stat blocks, obviously. And they're a pretty exhaustive list of animals that were in Japan during that time. So you have a bunch of land animals, a bunch of amphibians, birds, and aquatic. You even got whales. You want to go whale hunting. And then the character sheet. Now, you don't need this extra page. You don't need this page on the right. You only need the first page. The second page is basically just some space for your destiny to put in that somewhere. You could technically put that on the previous page as well, somewhere on a blank spot. And a little cheat sheet on the right here. You can see this. It just shows you, okay, so I upped my skill rank from 1 to 2. What do I get it to? Oh, I get a specialization in that skill. Okay. Oh, I upgrade my Budo skill, which is a martial arts skill, to 4. Oh, I get +1 die to that dice. Okay. So you don't have to check the book every time. It's just a little cheat sheet here. And also it shows the upgrade costs. So you don't need to jump and check every time. It's something you have always available. And you have a bunch of blank spots on this right sheet. You can put in whatever. You can put extra inventory, notes, whatever you want. That's why I put it blank on the top, so you can define yourself what you want to put in that. On the main sheet, you have your family name, clan name, first name, all the stuff you need, all the attributes, all the skills, your defenses, wounds, passive, abilities, personality and appearance, a little bit of inventory space, spot for your money, and 4 slots for weapons, and the amount of attacks. That's it. Very simple sheet. Easy to reference, easy to read. I wanted to make sure that it's not, clustered. Obviously, I could do it better. There's always better ways of doing the sheets, but I thought it's pretty sleek and pretty light compared to other sheets, I think. Um, an animal sheet, if you want to have like a, like an animal companion, you tame the wolf, and now you want to have that wolf with you. Well, you can fill out its sheet here, or you can just fill it out for the like a, if your party finds an aggressive wild boar or a bear in the woods and they attack, well, you can put their stats in here. Or just read them from the book. And you have the encounter sheet here, because I know a lot of old school DMs like to run their encounters on, with pen and paper. So there you have it. You have about 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's about 12 NPCs or 12 characters it can fit on, or 12 enemies, I guess. You can fit on one page. You have an initiative order here. You can roll for your initiative. So yeah, that's the book. And here you got this little back cover, another quote from Yusuke Kenshin. And that's that. That's the book. Again, this is loaded with all kinds of useful information. Even if you're playing a different system and you just want to use the setting, I can see how you could easily just use this as a setting book. Again, I tried to fit as much stuff as I could in here. I had to give up at some point because I was already at 556 pages. I was like, okay, well, this is getting way too big. The reason I picked such a... because this is a smaller format. This is not your regular... This is 6 by 9 inches. It's not 8.5 times 11. So it's basically like a smaller a book. The margins are pretty big. And the font is pretty big. The reason I did that is because I wanted one column instead of two. And because, like, if you look at how much text there is on one page, it's not a lot. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 paragraphs, right? So the reason for this is because it's much more readable this way, I find. You can blaze through a page much quicker this way. And it doesn't feel like overwhelming when you open something and it's just like text everywhere. Just easier to read. That's why there's so many pages. If this was a regular format in 2 columns, it would be like 300 pages or less. But anyway, that's the book. I put a lot of effort into this, a lot of love, and I love the setting. I love playing in the setting. I already got a group playing a campaign in this. We just started recently. I ran about 5-6 one-shots. And that's something I'm going to show you now as well. Because when you buy this book, you don't just get the book. You get a free one-shot as well. This is a free one-shot that's meant as a starting adventure, which you can use like as just a way to test the game or a way to actually start your campaign. It's made in a way that basically when it ends, it doesn't necessarily leave you with a lot of ties anywhere, story-wise, or it can depend on your character's decisions and how they handle the NPCs in this. But basically, this one-shot is inspired by an actual historical event. And I took that idea and I basically made a one-shot that takes place about a year or maybe like 8 months before that event. And I use it as a sort of a prequel to that event. So what you do in this one-shot might sort of slightly influence that event, or not, depending on how you play through it. But I use this as a good like starting point. So basically, if you want to wonder what kind of event it is, so in 1571, basically Oda Nobunaga attacked and leveled a 10-day monastery to rid himself of any dissenting voices to his rule after declaiming the seat of the shogunate. So Oda Nobunaga was a famous, really famous samurai lord, a daimyo, if you will. So he was one of the most powerful ones. He conquered, like, if you saw that map before on the other on the book, he had like basically all of Central Japan under his control. Things took a pretty wild turn later, but he was like at the peak of his power here, I'd say. And so this takes place. So he attacked and leveled that monastery. I think in July. I think it was during the summer. And this takes place the winter before that. So the idea is that before he attacked the monastery, he sent like a group of scouts, like a small unit, to sort of keep an eye on the monastery and sort of get the layout and everything. But then because it was winter, they got trapped in the passage by an avalanche. That's the fictional part. And then they're basically stuck there in this mountainside. And you have the monastery, and then you have those guys, and then those guys are dying from the winter because supplies are running out and the winter's getting to them. And the monastery's got all the supplies, so you can now you can figure out what this one shot's about. It's very open-ended. I don't believe in pushing my players down a good path or an evil path. I believe that's a choice they have to make themselves. And this accommodates pretty much both and everything in between. So it's very open-ended. I have no idea how a particular group would finish this. Because every group that I ran through this, they did it in a completely different way, which was pretty fascinating. So again, this one shot is realistically it's about 30 pages. You can see that here it's chapters 3 is about 37, but C1, C2, and C3 are all chapter C. They're just 3 different sort of plans, or whatever you want to call them, ways to finish the quest, right? So you generally speaking, your party is gonna pick one of these. So realistically, this is about 30 pages long, and then the rest is just dependencies, right? You have NPCs, maps, pre-made characters. So this features 7 pre-made characters. It's meant for a party of 3 to 5 max. You can always use the book's character creation tools and make your own character. But the pre-mades are there, so you can just if you don't want to just screw around, just get into this game quick. Just get the one shot, print out the pre-mades, and go. You don't need anything else really. Now everything's displayed in this book. There's a lot of different. There's also stuff like random encounters. You have a few random encounter tables. And then you have an appendices with the NPCs that are not in the book. So these are like custom NPCs. The ones that are not here can be found in the book. So you got everything at your disposal. There's also the maps. There's 2 maps features in this: the monastery and the war camp. And everyone's obviously everything's explained. The different every part of the map is explained what's there. And then you have the pre-made characters. I removed the background on this so that's a little bit more printer friendly. So you can just print this. You don't even need to take a character sheet and fill this out. You can if you want, but you don't need to. You can just print this, go. The only thing you might want to note somewhere on the page is like check what weapons you have, and then check the book for what kind of damages they have at certain successes, and just note that down. But that's really, and maybe what your abilities actually do. You would check what does the evade ability do, and if you have any martial techniques, what does that martial technique do? Other than that, everything's on this 2 pages. You don't need to do anything. You can just check it, roll it. That's it. Again, very simple. I added a decent variety of this. So there's like a warrior monk, a samurai, a merchant, an architect, like a craftsman, a doctor, a ronin, and a shinobi. So you have so many different ways to finish this one shot, and it's very fun. People got up to all kinds of shenanigans. You can go in guns blazing, full on, combat if you want, or you can. I actually had a group finish this fully RP. They basically just outsmarted the enemy, but they got really lucky on all their rolls. So but that obviously that depends on how you run your games. You could sort of force combat in certain areas if you wanted to, or anyway, that's it. I hope you like this little presentation. I'm planning on making more for this game. I plan on expanding this. I think I got a very good base here for a lot of good stuff. Again, the first thing I'm probably gonna do is make not a setting book, but a supplement. That's basically gonna have a low magic system in it. Like I mentioned before, basically it's gonna be based on the religions. So if you're like a Zen monk, it's gonna be based like on the Buddhist beliefs, and it's gonna be more like a, it'll be more like a, I guess, like like a D&D monk in a sense, not quite, but just like those kinds of powers in terms of more like personal powers, like personal feats of strength and agility and stuff like that. Or I'm gonna make something that's based on Bushido, which not Bushido, sorry, Shinto, which is a belief that most Japanese believe in now. It's like a very natural system. They believe basically that Shinto is about the fact that believers of Shinto believe that basically kami or gods are like in nature. So every part of nature is like a different god. So there's like hundreds and hundreds of these gods. It's like there's a tree god, there's a wind god, there's a everything. So I thought that's a pretty cool pretty cool thing to do if you want to do like a magic system based on that. But whatever I'm gonna do, it's gonna be low magic. It's gonna be very grounded and not crazy. I don't think a crazy D&D style magic system is gonna work well for this setting. I think it's gonna ruin it. I definitely want the survival aspects of this. I want the lethality of this to be what it is, and then just basically just give you magic to give you a little bit of nudge. Well, not a nudge, but a little bit of help to solve problems a little more easily, but still make it a lot of make it pretty unpredictable. I want magic system to be a little unpredictable. I want it to be a lot of different tables you roll on, depending on what kind of gods you want to get help from. Again, I'm just brainstorming this. I haven't actually written a lot of this stuff down. I'm just jotting down ideas so far. It's probably gonna take a while. But trust me, that book's not gonna be a 500 pages. That book is gonna be 100, maybe 200 pages max. I might actually introduce some extra subclasses or subprofessions in that. Maybe. We'll see. But definitely it'll expand on the religion aspect and sort of tie a magic system. So keep an eye on that. Again, it'll take a while. At least like 6 months. Because I haven't even started writing. But this thing poured pretty quickly out through my fingers. I'm gonna be real. This went, even though it's got a lot of pages, it went like, I did like 30 pages a day sometimes. Obviously, then I had to revise and do different drafts and improve it and proof check and all that stuff. But it went pretty fast. So we'll see. Maybe I'll do that supplement faster. But anyways, I'm rambling. Thanks for checking this video out. Hope you're a customer. Hope you buy this. I think it's well worth your money. I think for the money that I'm selling it, yes, I am an unknown. I'm not a big company. I'm not a publisher company. I'm not I'm not Wizards of the Coast. I'm not a big kahuna. I'm just a dude who does this for fun, who likes to make this, and but I think for the money that I'm asking, I'm giving you a lot. I'm giving you a massive tome full of so much different stuff you can use in so many different games, not just this one. I'm also giving you like a pretty big one shot as a bonus, so you can just You can pick this up and play it like that. You can just play it the next day. You can play it as soon as you get it. You'll learn the rules in like 5 minutes. So I think it's a good deal. So you can get digital copies of this, or you can get print copies. I'm waiting on the proof copy to arrive from drive-through, so I can enable it on drive-through as well. I know the print copies are a little bit more expensive, but honestly, the print costs for this are so high that I can't. I'm gonna get such a small margin from this that the buying the PDF will give me more money than the margin from the actual book. So it's a little ridiculous, and I already put in such a small margin that again I think it's a good deal. So thanks for watching this video. Like the video, whatever, sub, whatever you want to do. And yeah, stay tuned for more stuff in case I make more stuff. Goodbye.